Hello everybody, I am Beth Golden. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about paper. I'm going to tell you right up front that these are my opinions alone, and depending on the type of crafter and artist you may be, what I say may not be something you agree with. I understand that, and you might be right. So I just want to put that out there. I have gotten a lot of questions from people on what type of paper to use for what, and I've hesitated stating it because I have shared in groups on Facebook about how I use my card bases, and I have gotten some really mean comments back. But I'm going to share that here. You know, if people don't like what I say, it's cool. You don't have to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Take what you want from this, leave what you don't. It's up to you. You do what's right in your craft room. Just because this works for me doesn't mean it works for you. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am going to address this today, and hopefully it'll help some people out. I'm always trying to do things more on the fiscally conservative side, save a few bucks here and there. So I'm going to show you what I do and what I use. This is strictly what I do. This is not necessarily the leading opinion in the industry. This is just what I do. So just wanted to get that out there. Let me also take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Hit that little bell so you can get notified whenever I have a video coming out. If you enjoy this video, I would love it if you would like it and share. And if you have any questions or comments throughout the video, please feel free to leave them down below. I know that there are a lot of different opinions about the paper out there, and if you think that you have something that you like better than what I'm recommending, please feel free to share down in the comments below. I want to help as many people out, and I do not profess to be an expert in the paper realm of things. This is just my experience and what I work with. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about paper. Okay, I'm going to pull this all off to the side. We're going to go over and talk about everything that I use. Now, this is all from my perspective, okay? This is how I do art. So again, just want to preface that. Believe it or not, notebook paper I find to be wonderful in the craft room. This is really a great paper to use on layouts or back to school cards. I would not necessarily do a whole bunch of stamped images on it or use it as your card base, but to layer, it's cute. And if you want to do a little bit of stamping on it and putting it on the card, not as necessarily the central point, it works great. Something else that I love this for, it's actually one of my very favorite things to use on my gel press plate with paint, because paint dries to a plastic, so it automatically gives it some more stability that I can then use in my art elsewhere. So notebook paper, great in the craft room, great with paint, and great for some layering techniques. Again, you don't want to use a lot of wet medium on it, but really cute on a back to school card or on your kids' craft, your school layout. Okay, next up, this one might shock you, but if you've been watching me or know, copy paper. Yeah, I use copy paper in my craft room. I got this for $5 from Walmart Marketplace. There are 500 sheets. It's only 20 pounds. I only use this on my gel press plate. That's it. That's all I use it for. And again, it's cheap, and I can put paint on it. It dries, the acrylic paint. Usually I use this with paint. If I'm going to use a spray or mist on my gel press plate, I probably am going to go for a higher pound or a higher weight of a paper. But I'm a big acrylic paint fan on the gel press. So that's predominantly what I use, and copy paper works great for me on that. All right, so now we're going to get into something. We might have some controversy on this one. Okay, so they have a whole bunch of specialty paper out by a whole bunch of different companies that will charge you an arm and a leg for it, like 10 sheets of paper for $7. When, for example, this is good for all dry mediums. So if my daughter wants to do her charcoal drawing, or I want to color with coloring pencils. I buy this. It's 9 by 12. There's 48 sheets, $7. I go over to Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby, because that's where I find it, and I give them my 40% off coupon, and boom, I just got 48 sheets for under $5. You cannot beat that. I do not use markers on this. I do not use a wet medium. This is strictly for dry mediums. It works great. Next up is, speaking of that, watercolor paper. Now I gotta tell you, I love to use a ton of wet mediums. Watercolor, aquaflow markers, distress markers, things like that in my craft room. But the paper that you have to use for that the companies sell are just so expensive. You know, like $7 for 10 sheets. I'm not even kidding you. And that is a huge risk in your art. Like if you mess up, you are screwed. Well, if you go over into the journal section of your big box stores, you can find something like this. This is by Canson. It's watercolor paper. It works just as well, exactly the same as specialized watercolor paper that I have found at in the art section, paper crafting section of those same stores. It's the same thing. You just have to rip it out and cut it down. Again, this is $10. $10 for 30 sheets. Okay, Mr. Cashier, here's my 40% off coupon that you send me every week from Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. $6 for 30 sheets. $6 is what this breaks down to for 30 sheets. So that is how much of a savings, right? This is all I use now for my watercolor. All right, so now this is another one. This is the one that got me into a lot of trouble, okay? You guys, these are cheap. These are stacks of paper. They're really not the best quality. I only use these for my card bases. The reason why I use these for my card bases is because I layer on my stamp sentiment for the inside. And then I also mat it. I literally am just using this to build the card on. So I take one sheet of paper, I cut it down the middle, and then I score it down the opposite way, and now I have 2 card bases that I build on. Is this the best quality? Absolutely not. It's crap. I'll say it. This is crap. But I'm not stamping on it. I'm not coloring on it. It's like, you know, like in a sandwich. The bread is just a necessary thing that you need to have the good stuff get to your mouth. That's all this is. This is just the bread of your card. All right? It's necessary, but it doesn't have to be like, you know, prima donna best quality, in my opinion. It's going to hold up just fine over the years, as long as you're not stamping on it, getting it super soaked, coloring on it. If you're just using it as a card front, it'll save you a slew of money and it'll do the job, which is what I'm all about. All right, so you can find these a lot of times, 2 packs of these for $5. That's $2.50 for 50 sheets. And you can do color schemes. I have a ton of these. I don't ever have to buy those card blanks again. You know, the matching envelopes and the cards that come with it, those can get expensive. Why do that to yourself? Just buy bulk envelopes, 100 of them, for $10. Use your coupon again. And then get this in white if you want, for $2.50. You now have 100 cards that you can make for under $10. That's 10 cents. Come on. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I know that there are people out there that go, oh my God, you can't do that. That's not quality. I get it. It's not quality, but what I'm putting together is. So, you know, I don't mean to be all defensive about it, but I guess I'm kind of defensive about it. Anyway, just something to consider. If you don't like the idea, that's cool. Continue to do what you're doing. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm sure your cards feel really good when you get them. I get it. But when I make as many cards as I do not want to sit there and spend all my money on freaking card fronts and not on like the card bases. That's not where I want to spend the money. I want to get a cute sentiment. I want to get cute stamps. I want to spend it on good stamp pads. That's where I want to spend my money. All right. Now we're going to get into the ones that are pricey, but I think are worth it, and this is why. First up, you cannot beat a Neenah cardstock. This is great for Copic, great for Copic. I only use this when I am going to be stamping and coloring with Copic because it is so expensive, and quite honestly, it's freaking hard to find. I cannot find Neenah cardstock since COVID anywhere except for cut cardstock. So go check them out. I do have an affiliated link down below. One thing you want to keep in mind whenever you're using alcohol markers is to always put another sheet of paper under what you're coloring to catch that extra ink and absorb it instead of having it go back up into your image, which leads to all of the sloppiness and coloring outside of the lines. You'll be like, man, I could have sworn that I didn't get that outside of the line. Why is that there? Well, you probably were coloring on a glass mat or a silicone mat or craft mat, and you didn't have anything under it, and it just seeped back up. So you want to take a piece of paper. This is copy paper, notebook paper, whatever. Place it under your paper and then color. You can also emboss on this beautifully. So Neenah cardstock, definitely worth it. But again, you be selective. I do not use this as a card base. It's too expensive. Some people do. I don't. I'm cheap. Sorry. All right. So from there, we're going to move along to these two specialty papers. This is specialty stamping paper from Ranger. Now, this stuff is amazing for blending and amazing for your layered stamps. So if I want to do, let's say, a Concord and Ninth turnabout stamp, this is what I'm going to do it on because it stamps absolutely beautifully and I can layer color on. I do not want to try to use my color markers on this because it has a matte coat and it doesn't have any tooth to it. So it's super smooth. It's not going to pick that up. I also do not like how Copic markers work on this. You can see like lines and smears and things like that. So I don't like it for that. However, for ink and for sprays and powders, this stuff is amazing. It works beautiful with distress ink, awesome for distress oxides, really great for my Simon Hurley inks when I want to blend a background out. This is a wonderful paper. It stamps beautiful, crisp images, but again, I don't use it for everything because it wasn't created for everything and it gets expensive and I just don't want to spend that much money on making mistakes. But I do recommend this. It is pricey. It's like $10. It's like $7 for 10 8.5 by 11 sheets. Again, I think you can find it in big box shops for 40% off, but still on the pricey side. Last but not least that I really like and I use is, of course, Yupo paper for alcohol ink. Now, this is an expensive type paper because this is, let's face it, an expensive type medium to use. I don't enjoy using alcohol inks on paper. I like to use it on my gel press plate because I can use it on other things besides a Yupo paper. I do not like my alcohol inks on glossy paper. It does not look good. The only thing I like to do direct application from alcohol ink to substrate is on Yupo paper or on foiled paper. That is it. Everything else I do not care for. Kind of cute on acetate, but if I'm going to have to do it, I'm probably going to do it on this. Now, the alcohol ink on a gel press, that's a whole other video because you can use that on a whole bunch of substrates. And I already have that video produced and out, so go check that out. But again, if you're into alcohol ink, this is the paper for you. And like that is something that I created. It works beautifully. I don't like glossy paper, which can be cheaper than Yupo paper, simply because it just, the gloss actually can get, depending on how much alcohol ink, I discovered that the gloss can actually pick up, and then you're left with like regular cheap paper under it, which is nasty with your alcohol ink. So I do recommend Yupo paper for that. Again, Hobby Lobby, if you want to save a few bucks, throw them your 40% coupon. I could have got this for $6, but that still is only, that's 60 cents for a 5x7 sheet. So anyway, that's my gist on paper. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any recommendations, please feel free to leave them down below. I understand that we are not all going to agree on this subject matter. I just get so many questions on paper, and it's such an important, it's an important factor in our art, especially if you're a paper crafter. I mean, keyword there, paper. So we have to know when to use it. I really think that trying to save $1 here and there is important. However, there's also times to splurge, and the stamping paper is a crucial splurge, as is the alcohol ink. But the watercolor paper, the dry medium paper, things like that, you can get that so much cheaper. And like I said, you know, I have no problem using cheap cardstock as a card base. All right, you guys, I certainly hope that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, I'm Beth Golden. Happy crafting.